Payback. If you guys didn't know, Need for Speed Payback,
we get it. And we got a lot of feedback. A lot of it positive, and a bunch of it constructive. It's a euphemism for not as positive. And what we hope you'll see is that we've addressed all of the feedback and gone even further. We get it.
Team, are you guys pumped for tonight's event?
Yes. Jazzed. Can't wait. Dude, stoked.
Incredible. We get it.
They say you gotta save the best for last. I can't imagine a more worthy candidate to end my E3 prediction series than Electronic Arts. Yes, my sarcasm meter is off the charts, and yes, I'll admit, after editing 6 different prediction videos in a fairly brief amount of time, I'm running on empty. But even if my energy level were at an all-time high, the mocking undertone of this video wouldn't change. Let's not beat around the bush. EA's press conferences are fucking awful.
We get it.
They are the perfect mixture of boring and offensive. Boring because EA still hasn't the slightest idea how to establish a captivating pacing, take the 15-minute Pelé interview as a point in case, and offensive because EA doesn't even make the slightest effort to conceal that they regard us as total fucking morons. Each year my expectations decline drastically, and each year EA finds a way to undercut my record low expectations regardless. It's quite a challenge to compile an interesting predictions list for an EA conference, since more than half of the games aren't even worth talking about, and the few promising games left are tainted with a presentiment of disappointment. No matter how intriguing an EA game appears at first glance, nowadays one always has to ask the question, where's the catch? EA's dreadful reputation makes it exceptionally difficult to stay objective and not enter the conference with preconceptions. Then again, it's EA's own fault, so forgive me if I'm not too eager to talk about the next FIFA game, which we all know is coming. Do I really need to include a game barely distinguishable from its predecessor? Yes. FIFA 19 is part of EA's conference, and it's the same fucking game as always. There's my prediction. The way I see it, I'm left with 3 safe predictions that are somewhat interesting to have a look at. So here we go. Without the shadow of a doubt, BioWare should be considered as one of the most talented developers in the entire industry. Their Dragon Age and Mass Effect series forever changed the way we think about storytelling in video games. The positive influence these games had on all the RPGs that followed is obvious and baffling. Yet, in the light of a year full of incisive controversies brought about by the consumer-hostile company that owns them, even a prestigious and legendary studio like BioWare is starting to look into a worrying future. So much so that it has led many people to believe Anthem is BioWare's last shot. If Anthem does not perform to EA's expectations, BioWare might add up as another body on the giant pile of carelessly ditched developers EA left in its wake. What we have seen thus far is graphically gorgeous, and the world is compelling enough to want to find out more about it. At the same time, Anthem is also a long shot from the games BioWare used to make, the games people admired and cherished them for. Everyone who is hoping for another Dragon Age or Mass Effect experience from Anthem is in for a bitter disappointment. BioWare's previous games were defined by superb storytelling, rich RPG systems and meaningful decisions, whereas Anthem tries to build on the success of shared world action shooters like Destiny or The Division. For the sake of BioWare, I hope the upcoming E3 demo manages to win people over. This studio deserves to succeed and recapture the magic of Mass Effect and Dragon Age. The only question is, will EA let them? Battlefield probably remains the last franchise that hasn't been completely ruined by EA. According to recent leaks, the next Battlefield is titled Battlefield 5 and features a World War II setting. EA itself merely confirmed that the next Battlefield title will be released this year and will receive a proper presentation at E3. Compared to the usual ham-fisted first-person shooter campaign, Battlefield 1's story actually was surprisingly good. It still wasn't great, but especially the first vignette had some unique and memorable moments. If rumors are to be believed, Battlefield 5 will follow the German side of World War II, which would be quite a refreshing idea. I don't think the entire campaign will revolve around the German war experience, but maybe Battlefield 5's campaign continues to use the vignette story approach from Battlefield 1. My most anticipated Star Wars game is now dead and buried, just like the developer who was supposed to make it. EA Vancouver was handled the leftovers of Amy Hennig's original vision. It's safe to assume that the final product won't be representative of Visceral's idea. Despite speculations and petitions, EA holds a firm grip on the Star Wars license. Several EA studios are currently working on Star Wars games, and I'm sure at least one of them will make an appearance at EA's press conference. Unfortunately, EA Vancouver's and Respawn's games are living under the shadow of the disaster that is Star Wars Battlefront 2 and probably will have to deal with more skepticism than they deserve. I can't wait to see how EA is gonna laugh off the overwhelmingly toxic fan feedback this time. Many fans were willing to give Battlefront a second chance in spite of the first game. A third chance seems out of the question. And that's all I wanted to talk about. I'm actually glad that EA Play kicks off E3 every year, because this way we start at the ultimate low point and it's only uphill from there. Just imagine you watched a Sony conference and still have to sit through EA's shit show. Of course, I'd like to witness significant change this year, but the chances for that are extremely low. In all likelihood, EA's conference will be full of insincere PR talk, influencers, football stars, and other people who don't give a flying fuck about video games and are just there to collect their paycheck. Boring developer diaries instead of solid gameplay demos, Star Wars, sports, Star Wars, sports, Star Wars, and so on and so forth. Some of you might argue I'm being too hard on EA or that I'm just jumping on a bandwagon. If so, I have to disagree wholeheartedly. Are we being unfair? Are we stigmatizing and vilifying EA more than it deserves? Are we being overly pessimistic and aggressive towards a company which actually isn't much worse than the rest? Well, let's take a quick look at EA's track record. What has EA done for the gaming community last year? EA put the Mass Effect franchise through the ringer by delivering a buggy, mediocre mess unworthy of the Mass Effect name. EA shut down Visceral Games and killed one of the most promising and anticipated Star Wars games in recent history, adding another respected developer to their graveyard. EA ruined Need for Speed Payback with a grind-based loot box system, and who could forget the big fucking elephant in the room, Battlefront 2, a game that should have been an atonement for its lackluster predecessor, but instead turned into the most insulting microtransaction scandal known to the video game industry. Did I forget anything? I'm sure I did, after all we are talking about EA. So no, I don't think I'm too hard on EA or just jumping on a bandwagon. Hereby, I officially conclude my E3 2018 prediction series. In less than 3 months we will know just how wrong I was. As always, I'd like to know what you guys think, so feel free to leave a comment. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like or go a step further and subscribe to my channel.